We have a stunning new number to report in the COVID-19 crisis in the U.S. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University are reporting 67,417 new cases yesterday, one of the highest, if not the highest number yet for their tracker. Less densely populated states like Oklahoma and Nevada are now joining hotspots like Texas and California in reporting record cases there as well. Now, despite hitting a new record for coronavirus deaths, Florida is still debating whether to follow California's lead and shut down again.
There's sort of a barometer of 1 to 4 weeks where we're going to have to take some dramatic steps if we don't change the trajectory of this.
There's a lineup of cars waiting for testing at one of the many drive-through sites in the state. Florida is reporting 132 deaths yesterday and has had more new cases in the past week than Canadian hotspots like Quebec and Ontario have had since the beginning of the pandemic. The state's governor was quick to follow Donald Trump's call to reopen, and so far there is no move to backtrack. Nakina Sankar Gravier is originally from Winnipeg, but she now lives in Florida and joins us now from Coral Springs, Florida, where her family has been social distancing since March. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Nakina, Florida, we just talked about, broke its record for the most deaths in a day on Tuesday. I'm wondering, what has living in the midst of all of this been like for you and your family?
So, as you mentioned, we have been social distancing since the early part of March. It has been exhausting, balancing teaching children at home or working full time at home, making sure that we are doing as much as we can to ensure that everyone in our home is safe. It's been quite some time now, so the majority of people that I know, and my family in particular, we're growing a little restless. Definitely becoming restless.
Well, restless, I can understand. And I'm also wondering, though, are you a little afraid of the direction things are heading there?
I am. So unfortunately, there's no end at time.
Right. We have conflicting messages from leadership here in South Florida. We have a governor that is a loyalist to the president who's telling us that our children should go back to school, though I can tell you that we personally have made a decision that our son will not go back to school come the second week of August. But we also have, as you had Mayor Suarez, just a clip of Mayor Suarez saying, listen, if the numbers don't change, we may have to shut down again. So it's definitely conflicting information to Floridians.
Is that what you're hoping for? As we've seen in California, they had to backtrack.
So, I'm in a position where I have been extremely fortunate that I have not been impacted when it comes to my professional life. Unfortunately, for so many, they have, and they are the ones pushing for the economy to open. But my number one priority as a mother is to keep my son safe. So I am okay with them having to go backwards a little bit, shut down again, and try and get some control over this disease.
Tell me more about your son. So he's 6 years old, I gather, and you've made that decision about school, which starts earlier there in August. What led you to that, and how tough was that decision to make?
It's very tough. There's a lot of guilt. He's sitting here with me right now. He's my office partner. We taught him for the end part of school, his kindergarten years, and I feel bad. He's an only child. He has not been exposed to children for a long time, except for FaceTiming his cousins in Canada quite often. And so it's definitely a hard decision. Social skills is incredibly important, something they learn in the early years of elementary school. But we need to keep them safe. With the growing numbers, especially here in Coral Springs in South Florida, I'm in Broward County. It is just unsafe to send them in a social setting like that right now, where I don't think they can properly follow CDC guidelines and encourage social distancing.
You mentioned cousins in Canada. I know you used to live in Winnipeg. You worked at the same time I did on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. You must have people, friends and family back in Canada suggesting in a friendly manner that perhaps you might want to think about heading home. Are you hearing that?
We do. So I have friends who are calling and texting quite often telling me to come home. But, Canada will always be home. It's our foundation. we don't have plans on moving to Canada anytime soon. South Florida has become our new home, and we've created a life here. But, there's nothing better than a Canadian summer, and I miss tremendously that I can't visit this year.
Tell me what you're seeing there that has you concerned. We've seen scenes of the beach parties in Florida that took place over spring break. Are you seeing that type of behavior anymore on the beaches?
I'm not. So I have to be honest, the majority of the people that I know, that I speak to, they are practicing social distancing. You're always going to have those groups of people who look to not follow medical evidence, right? We have leadership here in the U.S. that has consistently gone against medical evidence and advice. And so there are some that are following suit and following that example. And those are the pictures that you see. But I don't think that the beaches are as populated as they were probably in the beginning, March and April, before spring break was over.
You touch on the fact that COVID-19 has become a highly politicized issue in the U.S. I wonder what you're witnessing in terms of mask wearing, or is there mask shaming? Are you seeing any of this division that we are hearing about?
I'm not. Listen, we get most of our groceries delivered. We are incredibly careful. With that said, there are times I have to go to the local supermarket. Everybody is using their masks. Everybody is using their gloves. Everyone is being careful. It's a political hotspot right now in South Florida. We're dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with, the Black Lives Matters campaign. And so I think that that's what you're seeing publicized, but it's not what I'm seeing every day here in Coral Springs.
So clearly, you've told your family, we're here to stay. We have a plan to homeschool our child. So what is your biggest concern going forward, especially if we continue to see these rising numbers, record cases in Florida, and even record number of deaths, Nakina?
So, I believe that the World Health Organization just said yesterday that the biggest threat right now is lack of leadership. And that's my biggest threat. I believe that the biggest threat right now is lack of leadership here in South Florida, in the U.S., will lead to putting my family's health at jeopardy.
Nakina, it's great to have your voice on this. We had been hoping to speak to a Canadian to get their viewpoint from life in Florida. I really appreciate your time today.
Take care. Thank you.
Nakina Sankar Gravier is a Canadian living in Florida, joining us from Coral Springs, Florida.